now. Hassan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anton.
So, as soon as we open your website, you say we grow food in the sand. And this honestly blows my mind. Can you just explain to us what this concept is and how this all started?
Yes, yep. So growing food for me, it was always new. Even if you say growing food in the soil, for me, it's still magical. Like I don't know how does it work? How do you put a seed, take care of it, and then in 6 months you have fruits coming out of it? In the sand specifically, it's the same thing like people did for thousands and thousands of years. Like in ancient Egypt, you have the desert, and right next to the desert, you have the Nile. And every year the Nile flooded, it converted this desert soil into a super fertile soil that can grow fruits and vegetables and food for ancient Egyptians. So it's the same concept, but on a smaller scale. We have a small fish tank with water, and then the water with the fish tank gets dropped in some pure sand, and this water converts the sand into a super soil that can grow any type of vegetables.
So when you talk about that sand, you're talking about raw desert sand, like non-fertile sand.
Yes, it's like pure sand that doesn't have any nutrients, but in like a closed loop, the water with the fish waste can make the sand super nutritious. And then the sand is converted to a soil that can grow vegetables.
So Hassan, how does someone even think of something like that? Is that because, I mean, you're originally Egyptian, correct?
Yep, it
Is
helps being Egyptian. Yeah.
is this because you saw difficulties back home, people growing their food? Like, how did you even come up? Why did you decide to get into this?
Uh, I remember, I think it was during COVID. I was in Montreal, first year studying mathematics at McGill. And when lockdown happened, I felt the world like had stopped. And when the world stopped, especially if you were here in Montreal too, the only thing was that was open was supermarkets. Oh, like this was the essential. Everything else closed. So at the time, me, like I got kind of worried. I thought, well, if there was no trucks, if there's no food, how do we live? And in Montreal, most of the food comes from far away. So this was the start that made me start to look, how do we have our food? Can we have food closer to us? And from this, I started reading about water problems, specifically in the Middle East and South of North America, because the regions that had the best agricultural lands in the world now are facing the most urgent water scarcity because the land have been depleted from its original water. And then I continued researching till I found that you can grow vegetables in sand. It is possible, and started trying here in my balcony in Montreal and never stopped since.
So it's kind of like, was it more of a trial and error until something worked? Or like how did you even come up with your solution?
So what the problem was clear. We have limited water on this earth and we need water to grow food. So we need solutions. So when I started to research about the existing solutions, they seemed very expensive that
Mm.
exist. Like maybe you heard about vertical farms or hydroponics. These are
Yeah.
other techniques that allow you to grow food, save water anywhere in the world. But the big problem that I saw in them that they were super expensive. So if you're in the Middle East, if you're in Egypt or Morocco or even UAE, these technologies are a bit prohibitive. They cannot scale. So while researching, I read like research article about this thing called sandponics. That basically it grows vegetables in sand while saving water. And since I'm from Egypt, it made like it can be awesome, you know. We have sand, we have no water, and we need to grow more vegetables. So I just tried to research it more. At the time, there was only probably two farms in the whole world. I contacted them trying to learn how does it work? Can I do it in Montreal? And yes, it started the trial and error. Until now, we have two commercial greenhouses in Egypt working for the past 3 years with great results.
Actually, that's amazing. It's amazing that you saw you kind of going against the odds. You said we have a lot of sand, we have no water. This is usually something that's Sounds very negative for someone who's getting into agriculture, but you looked at this as an opportunity. And so talk to us a bit about the results so far. You've been doing this for a couple of years. What did you learn, and did you change over time, or was the initial solution perfect from the get-go?
Uh, I think for sure we changed a lot over time as the market evolved with us. At the beginning, it was really against the odds because when we started in 2021, high tech and vertical farming was booming as it will save the world's food systems. And us going startup from Montreal saying, well, there is this other thing that is low tech, Sandponics, that no one else is using, but it works. It was difficult. But as time went on, the vertical farms, which have raised lots of investments, have had its issues because of the finances. It's super expensive. So at the same time, Sandponics slowly but surely started to gaining more traction, specifically in countries in Africa. It has the problem, but has no money for the super expensive. So they're just doing it in trial and error. But now, thankfully, the market has evolved to over 100 sand farms around the world in 14 countries. And we hope to make it break to show that the solution is not always more technology, more expensive infrastructure. Sometimes it's just about simplicity. So our goal now is to introduce this technology from Egypt to Mexico as a start to North America, as well as to continue expanding in the Middle East, which is the place with the most urgent water scarcity in the world.
Is there a type of sand, or are you really taking any kind of desert sand?
There are like specific type of sand that works best, and we've spent years researching and testing different sands, from Arizona for our first pilot in Montreal to Fayoum in Egypt to now we just opened a project in Sinai. So we've literally been going testing different sands in different countries, trying to have the best unique characteristics. And now
Mm.
we have the experience that we can work with any type of sand. It's just there are certain treatments that we need to do to make sure that it works for a long time.
So it sounds like you have like a magic solution in your hands. Did you get any kind of government support from these countries? I mean, do they see this as, have you contacted the authorities, and do they see this as a great opportunity, or have you had no contact with any governmental agencies?
We're based in Canada, here in Montreal,
Yeah.
and it was probably 2023, end of 2023. So we had the successful project in Egypt that's still going for right now. But we also thought this is just one farm, but this can be thousands of farms around the world. So to do this, we developed a platform. So this platform helps other people know how to plan, build, and manage their own sand farms. And once we showed that there is a scalability aspect from what we do, we've gotten great support in Canada, actually. So we have support in Canada to continue expanding sand farming in other places around the world that needs to save water.
Mm, interesting. And what about the output from these sand farms? Are they similar to more fertile places?
The output is actually amazing. So the quality vegetables that are grown in sand will usually have a longer shelf life, better taste, more sugar content than other type of produce grown in normal, let's say, soil or even soilless solutions, because the sand as a medium with the combination of the fish waste can be super nutritious for the vegetables. And again, if we compare it to other types of solution like the hydroponics or vertical farms, usually what they do is they grow it in water. So they grow it in water, they get nutrient solution that the vegetable might need and put it in the water. But for us, we grow it directly in the sand. And the thing is, sand, like other types of soil, has a million different chemical compounds and nutrient interactions that allows the vegetable to be more delicious at the end.
And Hassan, what about the scale? Like, are we talking like many small infrastructures, or can it be a gigantic, uh, like a very big project?
So for our standard unit, it's around 300 square meter. This is the fish tank with the sand that's beside it. So if you need to scale it to hundreds of acres, you just duplicate the same design for many greenhouses. But it's like as a typical greenhouse, you can have one, you can have 10, they can all be next to each other.
Okay, so since you started the business a couple of years ago, what has been the most challenging part so far?
The most challenging part. A
You're
lot of
traveling,
challenge.
you're traveling a lot, you're experimenting with very difficult places, difficult desert areas. So I'm sure there's some challenges that you're facing.
I'd say the biggest challenge is always in the beginning. You know, the first challenges you meet to kind of you find this idea, you feel it's good, it's close to your heart, you want to do it at the same time, you're afraid of taking the risk. But I feel once you jumped and you took in like this leap of faith, anything that comes after it's more an obstacle that you have to pass and you have to figure it out. But the challenges in the beginning were hard, like when no one else is convinced that this might work, or you're the only one in the world that's saying you can grow vegetables in sand and save water. It's hard. You kind of battling, thinking, is it just your ego saying it can work, or is there something real about it? So this kind of internal challenge of seeing and deciding, taking decisions is the most difficult.
So how does the company make money?
So we have two business models. We launch showroom in strategic regions where a local partner provide us with the land and the partial funding to have our standard unit. And once we have a sandponic in a certain area, we can license our technology to thousands of farms in the region. And we provide them with the software, the blueprint, and the Lidana sand, of course.
And do you feel like there's a certain educational threshold? Like, let's say farmers that want to use this for the first time, would it be difficult for them to learn the technology, or is it very straightforward?
It's super simple, but I'd say if it's the first ever commercial sandponic in an area, it's better to have someone that already has years of experience in running commercial sandponic. Because instead of having years of trial and error, if you just right from the beginning, this can be the blueprint that others in a certain region can follow along. So, for example, if we're doing a new farm in Mexico right now, it's our team that is there will be present for the first 6 months in the construction, the first 3 months, and the first 3 months, the other 3 months of operations to make sure it's like the perfect sandponic. And after, we can easily teach the other people on how they can teach others to do the same thing.
How long does it take you to set up in a new location? Like from the time you get the idea and then start negotiating and then the plant being completely finished. How long does that take?
I'd say now it takes 4 months if you have an idea of making it in some place. So a month till you find the perfect partner that is interested in having the first sandponic, and then probably 3 months for the construction. And after you can start planting directly in the sand.
So talk to us about these partners. You recently posted about your partner in the Sinai Desert. So how do these partnerships work? So they provide you land and financing. How do you find them? What's the deal between you two?
So for right now, the partners are people who are very interested about desert agriculture because they are feeling the problem the most. They have limited water, cost of food is rising, cost of fertilizer is rising, and our solution is one of the best in terms of lower inputs. The only thing they would need after they build the farm is just feeding the fish, and the fish will give enough nutrients for the vegetables. So the partner we're with, Habiba Community, they already had an organic farm in the Red Sea, and I'd say one of the best models for agritourism. So we have people and company from all over the world that go there just to learn more about regenerative agriculture. And all we did was convert one of their existing greenhouses that use drip irrigation into sandponics. So we want to show it together that one good managed sandponic project can produce more vegetables at a better quality with less diseases and problem than probably 3 or 4 other traditional greenhouses. And we're working together on making a model that can be applied in many other desert regions.
And what about the fish? Like, are there any specific type of fish?
There are many types of fish that you can grow in these fish tanks, but it depends on the region. Like if you're in a probably very hot region, tilapia will be the best, and this is our experience so far. And the objective is not really the fish, it's to make life thrive in extreme conditions. The fish is part of the ecosystem. It gives the nutrients necessary for the vegetables. But the priority is really the vegetables. Like for every kilogram of fish that we can grow 6 kilograms of vegetable at the same time using the waste from this fish.
Are there any types of vegetables, or did you experiment with different vegetables? Like, which ones are you focused on?
Yep, since the sand is, we can convert it to this super soil, any type of fruits or vegetables can grow. We, in our own farm, we have tested over 30 different fruits and vegetables. And we know other people using sand farms all around the world that have tried over 70 different fruits and vegetables, from cherry tomatoes to Italian basil to blueberries to blackberries. Anything that you can think of probably can grow in sand, but it would depend on the market needs. What is difficult to grow in this market, what is expensive that can be used in the sand, and it's really depend on the demand of the locals in the market.
Are there any vegetables that didn't exist but can now start growing because of your initiative?
We still haven't had this yet, but in Mexico, we're trying to try different types of vegetables, especially microgreens, because these were certain vegetables that have a very big demand in Quintana Roo in Mexico. And for now, they're getting it from literally thousands and thousands of kilometers away. So if we have the farm literally 10 minutes away from the restaurants and the people, it would be a big benefit having it grow in sand.
You talked about vertical farming, and I've heard of it. Before researching you, I'd never heard of Sandponics. And I think it's an amazing concept, especially knowing how tough it is in the Middle Eastern and North African region to grow anything. So how does it compare when it comes to pricing? Like, is it like half the price, a tenth? How do you compare it?
In terms of the cost of setting up a farm, there is no comparison. We can potentially be 10% of the cost of vertical farms. Because as of now, vertical farms have yet to find the cost structure that makes it a profitable business or compete with traditional agriculture. But for us, for example, for one greenhouse that can produce 10,000 kilograms per year, it can cost us between 10 to $30,000 depending on the country. Vertical farms to produce the same amount of stuff probably need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars because they have lots of like infrastructure of equipment, of metal, of artificial lights. So this is expensive in the setting up, but also in the operation expenses because it's more electricity. And another example, in vertical farm, because it's so sensitive and it needs super experts to work at, these experts are probably earning 30 or $40,000 per year. While in places like the Middle East or North Africa, if you earn $5,000 to $7,000 per year, this is a very good salary for people. But usually with vertical farms, because it's technology that is imported from other places, you need foreign experts that will make the cost a lot more. Sandponic is really simple, minimal equipment. Locals can be trained and produce very high quality
Mhm.
vegetables within the sand system.
Hassan, I know that you travel a lot. Do you have to be on the ground every time there's a new project, or do you delegate now?
Now, for sure, we delegate a lot. At the beginning, especially in the first project or commercial project in Egypt, I had to be there the majority of the time. But now we have a very experienced team in Egypt that is now going and doing projects on their own. And I'm more focused in North America, while our team in Egypt are focused on the MENA region. But as I said, if it's the first ever sandponic in a region where no one else ever did it, it would probably be best that some of our team that already have experience go there and help the locals do it. But once it's done in a certain climate, we can update the platform so that any other local greenhouse specialist or farmer can build and operate the farm themselves.
Right. Working in Mexico and Egypt, in the UAE, these are like completely different places. Do you have like different challenges that you face in different areas? Maybe like the way people perceive it, the different costs associated in different region, the way you have to talk to people. Like, how do you manage such different demographics?
Yeah, they're very different challenges. And even though I feel Mexico is a bit similar to Egypt, it's very different challenges.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like even the people, the culture, the governments are similar in many aspects, but still it's totally different. So it's always helpful to have a local partner that has experience, whether in business or food and beverage or even agriculture,
Mm.
that help us go there. But the main idea of us going into Egypt and into Mexico before, let's say, going to a market like the UAE, is our technology is new, it's innovative, it's unique. Some markets will only go on an opportunity once it's already proven. But if I go to Mexico in a remote Caribbean town where literally there is no farms, there is more willingness to accept a new solution. There is less presence of competition because it's just more difficult. Difficult to get the equipment, difficult to get the people, difficult to get the experts. But we see this difficulty as an opportunity because if you prove it in these extreme conditions, difficult political, difficult economic stability, if we prove it can work there, we can then take this experience and export it anywhere that is more easier to do a business.
So if I understand correctly, you save water as well, correct?
Yes.
With this. So hypothetically, if someone is working in fertile land and they want to save water, is that still applicable there, or are you just working with extreme conditions where nothing even grows?
Yeah, I say if someone already has fertile land, I think there are other solutions where he can try to conserve water in his fertile land, like drip irrigation,
Mm.
for example. Our solution is mainly for places that, yes, don't have any water, but also don't have as fertile soil, or the soil has been depleted of its nutrients after years and years and over like agriculture. So, for example, in Tulum in Mexico, they have so much water, but the soil is not fertile. The soil is very bad. They can't grow any vegetable. So our solution can be perfect for them. We can grow vegetable while keep using the same water again and again and again. In Egypt, on the other hand, around the Nile, you have the most fertile land on earth. We would not bring our sand and putting it in a place that the land can already work. There are other solutions. But if you're in another place where there's millions of acres of empty, unused desert sand space, this is kind of perfect for us. We bring our sand, fish tank, a completely closed loop that allows us to continuously use the same water while growing vegetables in the sand.
Fascinating. I will close with this. Hassan, where do you see this going in a couple of years? What's the dream?
Uh, the dream is really having many places around the world that we're struggling and that continue to struggle to have affordable, healthy food in a genuinely sustainable way. Like we'd really like solutions that fit with the nature, not going like against the nature. So if in a place Sandponic is not, I hope other technologies can solve it. But in other places, like in the desert or in places where the soil is not fertile, I'd love our solution to scale for hundreds and even thousands of farms.
Thank you so much for your time. This was a fascinating topic. I really love what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Antoine. Nice talking to you too.